James Carter didn't expect much from his stop at the medical research station. A mechanic by trade, he'd been sent on a routine mission to fix a malfunctioning ship on the outer edges of the galaxy. After hours of work in the dry heat of the desert planet, he found himself wandering around the station, looking for a break from his mechanical tools and the overwhelming silence. The station was sterile, with white walls that felt too cold, and the hum of advanced technology barely audible in the background. He had only a few hours to kill before his shuttle was ready to take him back to the ship, so when he saw the door to the medical center open, he decided to take a chance and step inside. Inside the quiet, gleaming lab, a woman was busy scanning data on a holographic screen. Her pointed ears and silver skin marked her as one of the Xynari, an alien species renowned for their medical prowess. She didn't seem to notice James at first. He stood in the doorway for a moment, unsure whether to interrupt her work. "Can I help you?" The alien woman's voice was calm, but there was something about it that made James pause. He didn't understand it, but he felt a sense of urgency behind her words, as though she was always on the brink of something important. "I'm just a mechanic," James said with a shrug. "Here to check out the place, I guess." Her eyes moved over him with interest, though her expression remained impassive. "Mechanic, you say?" she repeated, and there was something almost calculating in her gaze. "Would you be willing to assist me with a simple procedure?" James was still unsure whether he wanted to be involved, but something in her voice made him feel at ease. "Sure," he said, stepping forward. She guided him to a diagnostic table, where she quickly connected a small device to his wrist, one that didn't look much different from the tools he was used to handling.
"It's a simple DNA test," she said.
"We study the genetic diversity of various species for medical research. Nothing invasive." James raised an eyebrow but sat down, settling into the table. "I didn't think humans were that interesting," he said with a chuckle. The alien doctor didn't smile, but her lips twitched. "You might be surprised." She activated the device, and it hummed softly as it began to analyze his DNA. The room was eerily quiet, save for the low sound of machinery and the faint buzz of the medical scanner. For a moment, James felt like he was just another specimen, another data point in a galaxy full of mysteries that didn't concern him. But that feeling was fleeting. Something was wrong. The machine let out a strange beep. The doctor's fingers hovered over the screen, her silver eyes narrowing as she scanned the results. For a moment, James wondered if something had gone wrong, if the machine had malfunctioned. But then he saw her face, and he immediately knew that something wasn't right. She was staring at the screen, her expression frozen in disbelief. Her lips parted as if she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. She stepped back, leaving the device on his wrist, as if it had become suddenly dangerous. "What's wrong?" James asked, sitting up. He felt a flicker of unease growing in his stomach. "Is everything okay?" The doctor didn't answer right away. She quickly moved over to another console, her movements swift and precise, yet her eyes never left the display. The beeping had stopped, but it wasn't the usual quiet that followed a completed scan. No, this was different. There was tension in the air. She finally looked back at him, her silver skin slightly paler than before. This can't be possible," she muttered to herself, her voice barely a whisper. James's confusion deepened. "What do you mean? Did something go wrong with the scan?" For the first time, the doctor seemed unsure, her gaze shifting between the screen and James, almost as though she were debating whether or not to speak. After a long moment, she closed her eyes as if trying to center herself, then took a breath before speaking again. "I've never seen anything like this," she said, her voice steadier now. You're human. But your genetic makeup, she trailed off, as though the words failed to fit the situation. "It's not supposed to exist." James blinked. "What do you mean? Where id?" "I'm just a regular mechanic from Earth." She shook her head, her silver hair catching the light. "Your DNA? It doesn't match anything we've cataloged before, and that's saying something." because we've mapped hundreds of species from across the galaxy. James sat up fully now, his curiosity piqued. Are you telling me there's something wrong with me? No, she said quickly, though her voice was strained. There's nothing physically wrong with you, but there's something unusual about your DNA.
Unusual, how? The doctor's fingers hovered over the screen, tracing patterns that seemed familiar to her, but not to him. This is beyond anything I could have imagined.
Your genetic sequence. It has traits I've only read about in ancient texts. James shifted uncomfortably. He'd heard of alien races that had their own ancient legends, but he had no idea that they could be referring to his own species in such a way. What do you mean? What traits? The doctor's voice lowered, and for the first time since their meeting, there was a trace of concern in her eyes.
I'm afraid I can't explain it fully just yet, but I believe you may be different.
In ways that are still unclear. James frowned. He didn't know what to think. A mechanic was supposed to fix things, not become the subject of a mystery. He had no special abilities, no unusual powers. Why, he was just a regular guy from Earth. He didn't ask for any of this. I don't know what you're seeing, but I'm just here to get a checkup, not to become some kind of science experiment. The doctor nodded, as if she understood his frustration. I didn't mean to alarm you, but you should know. What I'm seeing here could change everything we understand about humans. James's stomach tightened.
What do you mean?
Are you saying I'm some sort of alien?
No, not at all.
She shook her head, walking back to the console. But your DNA might hold a key to something far older than our records. Something we thought was lost. James could only stare at her, a knot forming in his chest. He had no idea what was happening, but it felt like the beginning of something he was not prepared for. She met his eyes, finally giving him a small, uncertain smile.
I will need to run further tests, but I suggest you stay here for a while longer, at least until we have more answers. If what I think is true, it could be dangerous for you to leave without knowing more.
The weight of her words settled heavily in his mind. He had always thought of his life as simple, unremarkable. But now, in the quiet of this sterile room, surrounded by alien technology, it felt like everything he knew was about to change. James sat in the sterile room, his fingers tapping nervously against the armrest of the medical chair. The doctor had left him alone after her shocking revelation, telling him she needed more time to analyze the data. But the waiting had become unbearable. He had come here just to get a checkup, maybe learn something useful about his health, but now he was tangled in a web of mystery and confusion. He tried to make sense of everything, but it was hard to focus. What did the doctor mean by unusual? And why was his DNA so different from what was expected? His mind kept drifting back to her words. This can't be possible. Was he really that special? Was there something in his bloodline that made him different from everyone else? James tried to shake off the feeling of unease that had settled in his chest, but it wasn't working. He wasn't one for mysteries. He fixed things, kept things running smoothly, and he liked his life to be predictable. The problem now was that nothing about this felt predictable. His body wasn't reacting like it was supposed to. The doctor had said there was something ancient hidden in his genes, something that hadn't been seen for centuries. But how could that be possible? He wasn't anything special. He was just a mechanic. He stood up, stretching his legs. The walls of the station felt like they were closing in on him. He couldn't sit still any longer. He needed answers. He needed to talk to the doctor again. The door to the examination room opened, and Dr. Zanara stepped back inside. She looked more composed than before, but there was still a hint of uncertainty in her eyes. James could tell that she was deep in thought, her mind preoccupied with whatever she had discovered in his DNA. "Doctor?" he asked, his voice coming out quieter than he expected. She glanced up, meeting his gaze. There was something guarded about her expression now, something he hadn't noticed before. She nodded, taking a seat at the console. "James," she began, her tone calm but serious, "I've been analyzing the results further, and I think it's time we talk about what I found. But I need you to understand something before we proceed." James leaned forward, his heart racing. "What is it?" She hesitated for a moment, as if weighing her words carefully. "What I'm about to tell you could change everything you think you know about yourself, and it could change the way the galaxy sees humans." James frowned. "What do you mean?" "I'm just a guy from Earth. I'm not anyone important." Dr. Zanara shook her head. "That's what I thought at first too. But your DNA is unlike anything I've ever encountered before. I've compared it with countless species from across the galaxy, and there's something extraordinary about it." James felt a knot form in his stomach. Extraordinary? In a good way? In a way that could be dangerous, she replied. "James, you're not just human. At least, not in the way we understand humans to be. Your genetic code contains the remnants of an ancient civilization, one that was thought to be long extinct. A race called the Pioneers." He stared at her, struggling to process her words. "Pioneers? I've never heard of them." "They were a species from the early days of galactic exploration," Dr. Zanara explained. "They were a highly advanced race, far beyond anything we've achieved. But they disappeared centuries ago, wiped out by a war. Their knowledge, their technology, their legacy, they were all lost. Or so we thought." James felt his breath catch in his throat. "You're telling me I'm related to them? That I have their DNA?" "Not exactly," she said softly, "but your genetic makeup carries traces of their biology. It's as if their legacy is hidden in your bloodline, waiting to be uncovered. I don't fully understand it yet, but this isn't just a coincidence. You're a part of something far bigger than you realize." James leaned back in his chair, his mind spinning. He had always felt like an ordinary person, just a mechanic, trying to make a living in the galaxy. But now, everything was different. He was connected to an ancient race, a people who had been forgotten by history. "How was that even possible?" "I don't know what to think," James said, his voice barely above a whisper. "This sounds crazy. I'm just me. I don't feel any different, Dr. Zanara looked at him with a mixture of sympathy and caution.
You won't feel different.
"Not yet, at least. But your DNA is more than just a genetic map. It holds power, James. Power that could change the course of the future." "What kind of power?" "I don't know yet," she replied. "But it's more than just biological. It's something deeper. It could be related to the technology the pioneers used, the abilities they possessed." James's head was spinning. "Abilities?"
What kind of abilities? Dr. Zainara didn't answer immediately.
She seemed to be considering her next words carefully. "I've seen it before," she said slowly. "The pioneers were said to have the ability to manipulate matter, to control technology on a level that we can barely comprehend. Some even believe they could bend the very laws of physics. If your DNA holds even a fraction of that potential." James felt his heart race. "You think I can do those things?"
I'm just a mechanic. I can barely fix a ship without breaking something.
Dr. Zanara gave him a small smile, though it didn't reach her eyes. "You're not just a mechanic anymore, James. You're something else. You might not have the ability to bend the fabric of reality yet, but your genes carry the blueprint for it. And there are those in the galaxy who would kill to harness that power." James's mind was reeling. "What are you saying? People would kill me for my DNA?" Dr. Zainar's eyes hardened. "Yes. There are factions in the galaxy, groups who have been searching for the pioneers for centuries. They want their knowledge, their power, and now they'll want you." You are a living relic, a piece of history that no one was supposed to find. James felt a chill run down his spine. So what now? Do I just stay here while everyone comes after me?
You can't stay here, she said urgently.
They'll find you eventually. The only choice we have is to go on the run, find out more about your abilities, and protect you until we can figure out what to do next. If we can't keep you safe, everything you know will be in danger. James stood up, his mind racing. I don't know how to run from this. I don't know how to protect myself from something like this. You don't have to do it alone, Dr. Zanara said softly.
I'm here to help you. We'll figure this out together.
But first, we need to get off this station. The longer we stay, the more likely it is that someone will come looking for you. James's mind was still reeling from everything she had told him, but he knew one thing for sure. His life had just become a lot more complicated. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He was a key player in a game that he didn't even understand. And if he didn't figure out what was happening soon, he might not have a life to return to at all. James didn't know what to expect. All he knew was that, for the first time in his life, everything felt out of control. His feet carried him down the hallway of the medical station, but his mind was elsewhere, caught between the weight of the doctor's revelation and the gnawing fear of what might come next. Dr. Zainara walked beside him, her silver skin gleaming under the station's artificial lights. She was calm, composed, but there was a sharpness in her eyes that told James she wasn't entirely sure of their next move. He couldn't blame her for that. He wasn't sure of anything anymore either. We need to leave the station as quickly as possible, she said, her voice steady but low. The longer we stay here, the more likely it is that someone will track us down. James nodded, trying to ignore the unease creeping up his spine. He had heard enough of the galaxy's underworld to know that people who wanted power didn't play by the rules. If there were factions out there hunting the secrets buried in his DNA, they wouldn't stop until they got what they wanted. Where are we going? James asked, his voice betraying the anxiety he was trying to hide. There's a place on a nearby moon, Dr. Zanara said. It's a safe house, hidden from the galactic authorities. We can figure out our next move there. James looked at her, trying to read the expression on her face. She had seemed confident earlier, but now there was a hint of doubt in her eyes, something he couldn't place. She was hiding something. He didn't know what, but he could sense it. He knew that her calm demeanor was more of a facade, something she used to protect herself and him. You're not telling me everything, he said, his voice soft but firm. She glanced at him quickly, her lips tightening for a moment before she sighed.
You're right.
There's more I need to explain, but I can't do it all at once. It's too much. James stopped walking, his feet unwilling to move forward any longer. He turned to face her, crossing his arms.
Then tell me what you can. I need to know what's going on.
I don't want to keep walking blind through this, Dr. Bauer. Zinara stopped as well, looking at him for a long moment. The tension between them grew, a silence that was heavy with unspoken truths. All right, she said finally. I'll tell you what I know, but it's not the whole picture. Not yet. James nodded, waiting for her to continue. When I first scanned your DNA, I didn't fully understand what I was seeing. I thought it was some kind of anomaly, something I hadn't encountered before. But now that I've had more time to analyze it, I realize that it's far more complicated. Your genetic structure isn't just rare. It's connected to the pioneers, the ancient race I told you about. James felt his heart beat faster. So this isn't just some random thing in my blood. No, she said, her voice steady but serious. It's not random at all. Your ancestors, the pioneers, were a race that could manipulate technology on a level that was unimaginable. They could control the very fabric of reality, bend space and time with their minds, and alter matter at will. And somehow that ability has been passed down to you. James swallowed hard. You're telling me that I can do those things? That I have those powers? I don't know yet, Doctor. Zainara replied, but your DNA contains the blueprint for those abilities. They're locked away, dormant for now, but they're there. And if you unlock them, you could have the power to change everything. James shook his head.
I'm not ready for that.
I'm just a guy trying to get by.
She placed a hand on his shoulder, giving him a firm, reassuring squeeze.
I know.
But we don't have a choice anymore. You can't stay hidden forever. The factions I mentioned, those who are searching for the pioneers, they'll find you eventually. And when they do, they'll stop at nothing to control you. James frowned, still trying to process everything. So what now? Do we just run forever?
No.
Zainara said firmly. We find out what this means. We figure out how to control your abilities before anyone else can. If we can unlock the secrets of your DNA, we can understand what happened to the pioneers, why they disappeared, and how their power was lost. But more than that, we can stop it from falling into the wrong hands. James's mind was spinning. The weight of everything she had said hung heavily in the air. The idea of him having power, of being connected to an ancient race that could control the very fabric of the universe. It was too much to wrap his mind around. But I don't even know where to start, he said, running a hand through his hair. I've never had any special abilities. I'm just me. Dr. Zainara smiled, though it was faint.
You're more than you realize.
But we have to be careful. Unlocking these powers isn't something that can be done without risks. It will take time, patience, and preparation. We'll need to find the right place to train you, a place where we can safely explore your abilities. But how do we find that place? James asked, feeling the weight of the unknown pressing down on him. I know someone, she said, her voice low.
Someone who can help. They're an expert in ancient technology and the pioneers.
They've been looking for answers just like we have. They might be able to help us unlock what's hidden in your DNA. James raised an eyebrow. And you trust them? Dr. Zainara hesitated for a moment, but then nodded. I do, but we'll need to move quickly. The longer we wait, the more likely it is that the wrong people will find out about you. They continued walking, making their way toward the hangar where James's shuttle was waiting. The sound of footsteps echoed through the empty corridor, the only noise in the quiet station. As they reached the hangar, James couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. It was a gut instinct, one that told him someone, something, was out there, waiting for the right moment to strike. He turned to Dr. Zainara.
How do we know we're not being followed?
We don't, she replied, but we'll do our best to stay off the radar. We'll go to the moon, I mentioned. It's far enough from the major trade routes that we should be safe for a while. James nodded, though the unease in his gut didn't fade. He climbed into the shuttle, glancing at the controls. He had flown these ships before, but now every flicker of a light and every sound of the engines seemed to carry an extra layer of danger. Dr. Zainara took the co-pilot's seat, her fingers flying over the controls. The shuttle's engines roared to life, and they ascended into the sky, leaving the medical station behind. As they broke through the atmosphere and into space, James couldn't help but feel a strange sense of finality. His life had been changed forever. There was no going back now. Dr. Zainara glanced at him, her expression calm but determined. We're on the right path, but we need to stay focused. The journey ahead won't be easy, but it's the only one we have. James stared out of the shuttle's window, watching the stars stretch out before him. He had no idea what the future held, but for the first time he felt like he was truly part of something bigger. And for better or worse, he was going to have to learn how to survive in this new world. The shuttle's engines hummed steadily as they made their way through the quiet expanse of space. James sat in the passenger seat, his eyes fixed on the stars outside the window. He tried to focus, but his mind kept racing. The weight of everything he had learned, the hidden powers in his DNA, the ancient race he was connected to, the factions that would stop at nothing to control him. It was too much to process all at once. Dr. Zanara sat beside him, her fingers moving expertly over the shuttle's controls. She seemed calm, but James could tell she was just as uneasy as he was. Her eyes kept flicking to the scanners, always checking for any signs that they were being followed. He could feel the tension in the air, like a thick fog that refused to lift. "So, where exactly are we headed?" James asked, trying to break the silence. "A safe place," Dr. Zanara replied, her voice calm but carrying a hint of urgency. "It's an old research facility, abandoned for years. It's hidden in the asteroid belt near the edge of the system."
No one goes there unless they're looking for something specific, and that's exactly what we need.
James nodded, though the unease in his stomach didn't subside. Every choice they made now felt like a step into the unknown, and he didn't like how little control he had over his own future. "How are we supposed to figure out what this all means?" he asked, glancing at Dr. Zanara. "My DNA, the pioneers. I don't even know where to begin."
Dr. Zanara's fingers paused on the controls, and for a moment she seemed lost in thought.
"The first step is understanding what your abilities are. We know they're hidden within you, but we need to figure out how to unlock them safely. The research facility we're heading to contains records on the pioneers, texts, data, and artifacts that might give us clues." James frowned. "What kind of abilities are we talking about?" "I don't know yet," she said. "The pioneers had the ability to manipulate reality itself, control technology, bend matter, even alter the laws of nature. But it's more than just having power. The key is understanding how they used it, and why they disappeared." James shivered at the thought. "And you think I can do that?" "I mean, how would I even start?" Zainara replied. "But you're not alone in this. The most important thing is that you remain focused. There's a reason you've been chosen to carry their legacy. Whether you're ready for it or not, it's in you." James turned his gaze back to the stars. The black void of space stretched out in front of him, endless and silent. He felt like he was on the edge of something monumental, something that could change everything. But how was he supposed to face it? How could he live up to the expectations that were suddenly thrust upon him?
"You're thinking too much," Dr. Zainara said, breaking into his thoughts.
You'll have time to process all of this when we get there. For now, we need to stay sharp.
"The galaxy doesn't care about your doubts, James."
It's coming for you, whether you're ready or not." He nodded, though her words didn't ease his worries.
He could feel it. There was something coming. The weight of his future hung heavily over him, like an unseen force waiting to strike. But he didn't have the luxury of doubt. He had to act, even if he wasn't sure how. The shuttle entered the asteroid belt, and the once smooth journey began to grow bumpy as they navigated the floating rocks and debris. James braced himself, gripping the seat with one hand as the shuttle bounced slightly with each passing asteroid. Dr. Zinara maneuvered the ship with precision, expertly weaving through the dangerous terrain. "We're almost there," she said, her voice calm despite the increasingly unstable path. James didn't respond. His mind was still racing, trying to piece together the fragments of his life that had been shattered in the span of a few hours. He had gone from being a simple mechanic to being at the center of a galactic mystery, part of an ancient legacy that could reshape the future of the galaxy. He wasn't sure how to feel about it, but he knew that there was no going back. The shuttle passed through the asteroid field, and ahead, James could see the outline of a hidden facility nestled among the rocks. It was camouflaged well, barely visible to the untrained eye. They made their way toward it, the facility growing larger as they approached.
There it is, Dr. Zenara said, her voice steady as she brought the shuttle in for a landing.
This place is ancient. It's been abandoned for centuries, but its records could hold the answers we need. James watched as the shuttle touched down on the facility's surface. He could see the dust and debris that had accumulated over the years, a sign of how long the place had been left untouched. He felt a sense of unease settle over him, but there was no turning back now. They had arrived. As the shuttle's engines powered down, Dr. Zainara unstrapped herself from her seat and stood up. "Stay close," she said, her tone serious. "We don't know who or what might be waiting for us inside." James followed her as they made their way to the exit, the hatch opening with a hiss. The air outside was cold, the ground beneath them rocky and uneven. The facility looked abandoned, but there was something unsettling about it, a feeling that lingered in the air, as if the walls themselves were holding secrets. "Do you think anyone else knows about this place?" James asked, looking around cautiously.
Not likely, Dr. Zenara replied.
The pioneers were cautious about their knowledge. They hid their research here for a reason.
But that doesn't mean we're alone. Keep your guard up.
They made their way toward the entrance of the facility, a large metal door that had clearly not been opened in a long time. Dr. Zenara moved quickly, entering a code on the control panel beside the door. After a few seconds, there was a loud click, and the door slowly creaked open. Inside, the facility was dark, the lights flickering as they powered on. Dust hung in the air, and the faint smell of old machinery filled the space. The walls were lined with ancient consoles and storage units, many of which were long since powered down. But in the far corner of the room, James saw something that caught his attention, a large holographic display that seemed to be still functional. Dr. Zenara moved toward it, her footsteps echoing in the quiet room. She reached out to activate the display, and it flickered to life, showing a 3D map of the galaxy. James stepped closer, trying to make sense of the information that was being shown. It was like nothing he had ever seen before, a detailed network of star systems, planets, and ancient structures. "This is it, Doctor!"
Zenara said, her voice filled with awe. "This is the Pioneer's map."
It shows the locations of their research facilities, their technology, and, most importantly, their legacy. We're close to finding out everything. James felt a surge of hope, but it was short-lived. The map was vast and there were so many questions left unanswered. They weren't out of danger yet. They still had to figure out how to unlock the power hidden in his DNA. And the more they uncovered, the more likely it was that someone would come after them.
We need to be quick, Dr. Allen.
Zenara said, turning back to him.
The more we learn, the closer we get to the answers.
But it also means we're drawing attention. James nodded, his mind still racing with everything he had learned.
His life had changed in ways he couldn't have imagined, and he wasn't sure what the future held. But one thing was certain. He couldn't turn back now. The journey ahead was going to be dangerous, but it was the only path he had left. Together, they began to explore the facility, their footsteps echoing in the silent halls. They were uncovering secrets that had been buried for centuries, and each step brought them closer to the truth. James had no idea what would happen next, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't alone anymore.
He had Dr. Zenara, and together they would face whatever dangers lay ahead.